All right. So it looks like we're at the top of the hour, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jeff Giannato, and I'm a Senior Solutions Advisor here at MarketSmart. And I'm very happy to be joined by Tracy Malloy Curtis. So you can see us both on the screen here. We'll be kind of trading off the mic here and there. Now, to jump into things here, of course, we'll be sending everyone a recording of this after today. And also, I just wanted to mention, if you have questions, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A tool. We'll be able to address those questions throughout the presentation, and then we're also going to make sure to reserve some time at the end for some Q&A as well. So feel free to type in there, and we'll try to get to any comments or questions you have. So getting us started here, I think what probably brings us all to the table today is everybody seems to be talking about this. You know, go to the conference and you see the session about QCDs and people are talking about QCDs. Maybe you're reading our blog articles and other blog articles that talk about QCDs. And really all of us are working within an aging donor base. And so this is increasingly becoming a hot topic, and rightfully so, because there's some big implications if we can do this right and do it steadily. Now, of course, we're all here because we're trying to learn a little bit of just how to market these QCDs. We'll do a little bit of giving you some general facts as well and then key information about QCDs at first, but we'll jump into some really interesting examples of how to get the word out, generate awareness, generate interest, and also generate inquiries in terms of this type of gift. Now, one part of the puzzle can be kind of putting widgets and brochures on your website, but we're going to try to help you understand a holistic marketing strategy for qualifying and cultivating prospects for this type of gift. Now, I'd already mentioned you're joined by me and Tracy Malloy Curtis, and we've got a little description of each of our firms here between Mal Warwick, Donor Digital, and MarketSmart. But at a high level, although Tracy, I'm speaking on your behalf here, Tracy has a wealth of knowledge, a lot of experience working within advocacy and social justice organizations, and that is kind of part of the focal point of MWD. And she specifically focuses on planned and major gifts in terms of her consultation and how she works with clients. MarketSmart, similarly, we're in the planned, mid-level, major gift space. We're really a marketing and technology firm that focuses on qualifying and cultivating opportunities for mid-level, major, and legacy gifts. Now, I don't know if you're already tired of hearing from me, but you're going to hear from Tracy soon, I promise. But I'm just doing a little bit of the intro here. Now, we're going to give you a few different things over the course of this webinar. One, like I mentioned, we want to provide some high-level kind of key information to understand about QCDs. We want to talk a little bit about both the challenges for a charity, just getting this started, tracking it, doing it right, getting the right people to the table to talk about this, but also the challenges for the donor in terms of understanding this opportunity and learning how to take advantage of it. We're going to dive into some real examples, online, print, and different examples of how you can market this type of gift and what should be kind of spoken about within that marketing and included to help resonate with folks. And then finally, we also want to just talk about some easy ideas and tips that you can take home right now and implement to begin the process of really bringing this type of marketing to the forefront of your organization. Getting just a little bit of the high level as to why is this even important. I think you're all here, of course, because you do believe it's important, but with the 2018 tax law changes, it's become significantly more attractive for donors to consider this type of giving, especially potentially as a way to replace or add to their annual giving. Now, one of the big things that are a factor as to why this is also critical is because there's going to be a lot less people, there already are, but it's going to continue in terms of folks itemizing on their tax returns. And so many of those individuals who would have taken advantage of that type of process in the past are going to be over the age of 70. And of course, many of them do have some significant retirement assets. Not to mention, of course, in the world we live in, major planned or mid-level gifts. Of course, a big thing on our minds is this, great transfer of wealth. And that has to do with the fact that baby boomers are really coming of an age where they're ready to make some of the biggest gifts in their lifetime. And so this means a big opportunity, of course, for your charity, And then many of you may already be aware, but just to state it, a donor, can transfer up to $100,000, even if their required minimum distribution is less than that amount. And so it's not as though the excess of the RMD is treated differently. It doesn't count as income and you don't take an itemized deduction, but it does mean in that sense that, the donor could make up to $100,000 transfer tax-free to your organization. And so that could mean some big things for you. So I'm going to now at this point pass the mic over to Tracy. I'm going to jump to our next slide here. Oh, I joked actually. I'm going to do this one other slide as well. So a donor who gives $100, I was kind of speaking to this, who may make an annual gift of $100, often can give actually a significantly larger gift from their IRA, usually jumping them somewhere between $1,000 and $10,000. And so as much as many folks today are sort of looking at this type of giving as a component of plan giving marketing, in many ways, we're going to speak today about how it really is kind of has much more implications within annual fund and mid-level giving in terms of helping people give more than maybe they were willing to annually
Jeff,
as is.
I apologize. We lost the visual. I think you need to take back hosting.
All right, let me go back in here. So it looks like luckily I'm on my phone here, but our internet just dropped down for a second. So just bear with me for 1 second here. Sorry about that. So I'm going to join out here. One moment, guys. No, so I'm going to try to join my hotspot here. Sorry, everybody. And Zach, can you help me out here? Sorry about this, folks. We'll get started soon. So we're still working on this, just so everybody knows. We're still here. If you can bear with us for one moment, we're going to work on getting our internet back up here.
Technology should be better.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think hopefully all of our attendees have one way or another been in this position as well. All right. I believe I've got internet now again here using my hotspot. So I will get back on here. Just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, it looks like the Market Smart files is back up now.
Alrighty.
All right, I'm almost there, Tracy. I know this must be a little awkward for you, let alone everybody else here. So just one moment.
I suspect many of us are used to it.
And Tracy, if you want to just speak to anything as I pull this up, I'm actually logging in now. You feel free.
Okay. I don't have the presentation until you share.
All right, so it's logging in back in here, folks. And we are back. If I look like I'm sweating a little bit, it may be because I'm sweating a little bit. So let me share my screen here and go back to our presentation.
There we go.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. A few technical difficulties, and thank you for bearing through it. We're going to jump back into the presentation here. A unorthodox, but yeah, we took a little hiatus for a second there. Okay. What we were speaking to at that moment in time was that often these types of gifts for donors, it's not so much that they look at it as a major or legacy or a mid-level gift as much as it's a way for them to replace their or add to their annual giving. Now, the people who benefit most from this type of giving include those that are retired or about to be, live off of a fixed income, and are unable to itemize and or would like to lower their adjusted gross income. Now, keep in mind, as much as we can provide information through marketing, you can provide your donors information one-to-one. This is something that they should consult their financial and tax advisor about because there may be additional considerations depending on what they need to pay for in their life at different times. Okay, now at this point, I'm going to be passing the mic over to you, Tracy.
Hey there, everyone. So I think it's actually really funny that we're all getting excited about QCDs now. I started marketing these back in 2006 when it first became an option. Of course, an option that we never knew if it was going to get renewed year to year and didn't give us much time to build in good marketing. But it has been an option for a long time, and there have been some organizations who have been promoting these gifts, and they're really seeing the benefits, and they're seeing the benefits across various types of donors. So I'm going to give you two examples of donors whom I know, names have been changed, but two different types of donors who have taken advantage of these gifts. So our first example is someone who has been a strong annual fund donor. She's 71, she's a retired teacher. She's in California, and of course, as so many people in California are lucky enough, her home has appreciated in value. It's the primary asset that she'll be leaving her children, and she has a very nice sized retirement account. She's super connected to the organization. She volunteers and has for years, and she's been giving at about the $500 a year level. As soon as she turned 70 and a half, she was excited to learn that she could do this. And this is a direct quote from the donor, that she got to the age where she was needing to take her RMD, and she found out she could give it to the charity. And it is now how she gives her gifts. And they are significantly larger gifts than she ever made before. And this is a donor who I think that you'll see, hang on one second. Some people are saying there's no audio. Can you guys hear me? Someone send a message.
So I can hear you okay, Tracy.
Okay, great. Just checking.
Yeah, I think everyone
All right,
can
thanks
hear.
everyone. Okay, so Jean is a great donor, and you probably have a whole lot of donors like her in your database. And she is a great person to market to. Because she's got the money and she wants to use it. She wants to support your organization. These gifts are also underutilized opportunities for your major donors. And so we have another example here of donors who I've spoken to. They're a couple, both around age 80. They're major donors. They've been giving about $25,000 a year, which is a very lovely and significant gift. They have a very nice sized IRA, and they have sufficient non-IRA resources. They have investment, real estate, other sources of income, and they're not super worried about outliving that. They have a very large required minimum distribution of $167,000 a year, which as a Gen X person and not a baby boomer seems lovely and amazing. But it is what it is, and it will increase their tax burden, and they have to take it. So the organization's in the middle of a capital campaign, and they've been talking to their gift officer about the campaign. They're super excited about it. They have decided to make $1 million pledge to the campaign, and how are they going to do it? They're going to max out their IRA QCD. $200,000, $100,000 each. They're going to pay it over 5 years. And then they're going to name the organization the beneficiary of their retirement account to back up this pledge or to increase it. This is not an uncommon situation if you're speaking to your donors and if you know a little bit about your donors' finances. So these are gifts that really don't live in one area of philanthropy. They're great for small donors. They're great for large donors as long as they have they're the right age and they have the assets. So also this helps them. They do end up in a lower tax bracket. So these are both real donors. And so you can see some of the opportunities involved in these gifts. All right. So we're all about making it easy for the donor to give. Even though this has been a giving option for a number of years now, many donors still do not know that it's an option. Not everyone has a financial advisor who is letting them know about this, and they just don't know. We're not making it easy for them either. I cannot tell you how many organization websites I go to, and it's almost impossible to find out about these gifts. If I go to a Ways to Give page, there is nothing on it about QCD or IRA rollover gifts. Often there is something buried deep in the plan giving pages. But you know what? These are not plan gifts. These are, I guess they can be, but they're outright gifts. And when a donor wants to make that gift, we need to make it easy to get that information. Another challenge that a donor will often face is that they're not getting acknowledged properly for these gifts. There's specific language that you need to put on your acknowledgments for these gifts. What I'm seeing is that gift processors and the companies who process gifts for companies often cannot tell the difference between a QCD, a gift from a donor advised fund, a direct gift from a brokerage account. And if you don't know what kind of gift it is, or you don't educate yourself to know how to tell the difference, the donor's not going to get the right acknowledgement, and that makes them very unhappy. All right, custodians as well, they don't necessarily make it easy to find the proper forms or the proper options. So we're not making it easy for them on any side of this. And also, yeah, who really knows their half birthday? I mean, my 11-year-old does, but I think at my age, we probably don't. We don't keep track of those things. The other challenge for the donor, and I've had a number of donor conversations about this, that there are things you cannot use a QCD for. You can't give a gift to a private foundation. You can't send a QCD to a donor advised fund. You can't use it to fund life income gifts. You can't use it for event or gala tickets. So these are some things that donors like to do. And so that's a problem. This is also challenging for us on the nonprofit side. And this is where anyone who knows me knows I'm going to get up on my soapbox a little bit. So this is the type of giving that requires us all to work nicely together. Plan giving, annual fund, mid-level giving, major gifts. This is a gift option for a lot of donors across all of these areas of philanthropy. And what happens is that it often falls in the hands of the plan giving team, none of whom have enough money to market the way they should. And they're using some of their marketing budget to get the message out about IRA rollover QCD gifts because no one else is doing it. And again, we're not making it easy for donors to find the information. We're not giving this as a really easy to find giving option. And so, the reality is you got to get everyone in the room to really maximize your benefits from these kind of gifts. And as I said, so because these don't fall neatly into particular categories, do you know who's responsible for marketing these gifts, for answering the donor inquiries? If a donor calls, do they even know who they should call? And does the person answering the phone even know what to say, right? So this is sort of a cross-training opportunity across your organization, and a way for multiple departments to take ownership of this. And then the third, and this is one of my particular annoyances, and I say this as someone who's worked in major and planned gifts for 20 years, I still find that many gift officers are not asking their donors to make their gift in something other than cash. If you have a donor who's in the right age range, you should be asking them, are you going to make your gift with a QCD, or talking to them about larger gifts? And the same is true for stock gifts, donor advised fund gifts. Stop thinking about gifts in terms of cash, and you'll get larger gifts. And again, as I said, many nonprofits and gift processors are not actually keeping track of these gifts. I've had a couple of clients tell me, I cannot pull a list of people who have given an IRA rollover QCD gift because we haven't been keeping track of that gift type in our database. If you're not, you really, really need to. Not only just because you need to for a million reasons, but these are people who are fabulous plan giving prospects, and you want to be able to speak to them. And if you don't know who they are, you're not going to be able to. All right. So because we are in the middle of November, which I'm sort of appalled about. I wanted to mention that you actually need to give donors some heads up around these gifts. And ideally, you should be letting them know about them year round. So there's two ways generally that you will get these IRA rollover gifts. The donor will ask their IRA custodian to send you a gift. They will make the request, they'll fill in their form, you will get the gift directly from the custodian. In this case, the gift date is the date that it's when they issue the check, right? So it's not when it arrives. If it's issued December 31st, you don't get it until the middle of January, it still counts as a gift for this year. That is ideal because oftentimes people are very last minute about these things. And a number of organizations actually close down between Christmas and New Year's and are not necessarily processing checks, which is also not ideal, but it is what it is. This is the more common way, and for bigger gifts, this is how you'll get them. The second option is much more problematic. When a donor has an IRA checkbook, they can write a check on their IRA and send it to you. Now, unfortunately, these gifts, the gift date is not the same as when the custodian is sending it directly. In this case, the date of the gift is the date that you deposit it and it's cashed, essentially, that you receive those funds. And if a donor sends that gift to you the last week in December and you don't open the envelope, you don't process the gift until January 2nd, January 3rd, that is not going to count as a gift for this year, and that could cause problems for them. So not only do you need to be aware of this, you need to let donors know about this. You need to mark it early enough to give them enough time to make their gifts, and you need to give them a heads up that if they're going to make a gift this way, it's they gotta do it in good time. So just two things to keep in mind, and you'll see on some of the marketing examples that we use, we do give people a heads up that they need to get their gift in early.
Yep.
Oh, so someone's saying, I thought the postmark was the gift date. Well, again, that depends. So if it's a check issued directly by the custodian, that's one thing. If it's the check sent by the donor, because when you think about it, the custodian, if the donor is writing the check on their IRA checkbook, the custodian doesn't know anything about it until the money is pulled out of that account. So that's why it's different. And there's a number of, there's been a number of articles about this over the past year that you can find, because it caused quite a lot of consternation last year when folks realized this. So.
Yep. And one person actually asked in terms of just asking, can you clarify once again, a check from the IRA custodian does not need to be cashed in the tax year?
I mean, look, ideally you get them all cashed in the tax year, but it's a little up in the air. So, again, the checkbook gift, it is very clear that it does not count until it's deposited and the money is transferred out. With the direct gift from the custodian, it's my understanding that it's when the gift is sent out, because the custodian releases custody of those funds by doing that. But it's a little up in the air. The lesson here really is mark it early, get those gifts in early, and don't let checks sit on your desk between Christmas and New Year's. Be a problem.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And hopefully we'll get more clarification on this over time.
And feel free, everybody, to keep asking questions. We're going to save a few up for the end to keep jumping through some slides, but we're going to come back to them. So feel free to keep asking. Now, with regard to marketing, not just QCDs, but just in general, for instance, your Plan Giving website in general, or trying to market QCDs, it's not necessarily just if you build it, they will come. You really, and that's to kind of say that you can't necessarily simply, although it's a good start, it's not to say these are bad things, but to put a widget or one brochure on your website, that's not going to necessarily often create a measurable increase in the amount of QCDs you're receiving. And certainly, as Tracy was speaking to, many nonprofits aren't even at that point where they've put information on the web and accessible for people to understand this. Now, if you really want to dive into building the amount of QCDs you're receiving and increasing that year over year. It's about anything. It's the same as anything in marketing, creating a true plan where we incorporate some level of lead generation, cultivation, and stewardship. And that's all, of course, to try to get hands raised, inquiries, and build awareness. Now, something else to speak to is kind of as Tracy was talking about, not everyone is aware of this. I mean, even my father's a partner at a big law firm in DC, and he was completely unaware that this was an option he could consider, and he is 70 and a half. He's right at that age. And so we need to understand that in that regard, our marketing strategy needs to apply to everyone across the consideration spectrum, all the way from what is a QCD to how do I take action and supporting that process. Now, I'm going to finally here get into some examples of how at both MarketSmart as well as at Mal Warwick Donor Digital, how we help our clients market these types of gifts. And certainly feel free as we go along to steal from some of our ideas here, some of our ideas in terms of things that you could do in-house as well. Now, first and foremost, something we do here at MarketSmart with clients is help them develop a robust page, which you too could do in-house regarding QCDs. Now I'm going to pop out of this screen for 1 second to show you a live example. But what we're going to see at a high level here is, one, a page that provides information to supporters that's relevant to them at any level of consideration for making this type of gift. We're also in kind of in light of what we know and things Tracy was mentioning as well, we want to actually really market this throughout the year. Often there are people who may take advantage of this type of opportunity, some around tax time, but a lot of those gifts do tend to come in close to the end of the year. So we tend to have a 4-email strategy where we have one go out before tax time, kind of a reminder during the summer. I'm going to show you some examples of what this looks like. And then 2 at the end of the year to really make that final push and try to get people to take action on this opportunity. I'm going to also talk about an RMD calculator, making it really easy for these supporters to figure out what their required minimum distribution is. And then finally, also an IRA custodian form that helps them just get that distribution form very easily so they can take action. So I'm going to pop out of this and go over to an example here. Now, bear with me. I'm going to type in a little, I actually have it pulled up here. So I had mentioned we want to build a page and provide information to supporters that's relevant at all levels of consideration for making this type of gift. So that's to say, if we start at the very kind of awareness end of that spectrum, just giving people simple infographics and information relative to how this type of gift works, why they should consider it, what the implications are for both them as well as your organization, in this case a private college, talking about how you can help continue access to scholarships, state-of-the-art facilities, and outstanding faculty. When I mention an RMD calculator, that's to say making it really easy, and these distribution amounts are publicly listed, so it's all common knowledge, but just making it easy for people. Okay, I am 75, clearly I'm 75, and I have $1 million in my IRA fund, which I might have typed in too many zeros. I have $10 million, even better. So I've got quite a big required minimum distribution, but this helps them figure out, what they might need to take out this year as is. We also want to, of course, use this as an opportunity to help kind of push social norms, have quotes, videos, stories from people who've made this type of gift and why it means a lot to them, even things that help people think about, are they actually qualified to make this type of gift. Now, a lot of what I just described goes into trying to provide folks engagement that's relative to if they're just first figuring out how to make this type of gift or just learning what it is. If they are ready to take action, we use a widget of sorts, you could say, to help people quickly get access to custodian forms, because as much as these types of custodian forms for Ally or Schwab or Fidelity or Merrill Lynch or what have you, they are accessible online, but it is quite a mess to go into those types of accounts for the donor and find the right form and do everything right. And so we just want to make it simple and easy. Type in your name, a little simple information, and when you click a button, what's going to pop out here is really a form that it both includes a checklist that tells them kind of what to do next and where to go with this and what steps they need to take, as well as the letter they're going to need to send to their custodian and instructions on where it should go, as well as the form itself. This one's an example of Ally, where we are kind of giving them the forms they need, but also pre-filling some of their information and the organization's information. Now, I hopped through that pretty quick, I know, but we can always come back to it with a little extra time, as well as certainly if you want to, we're going to send out these this deck, as I had mentioned, certainly just feel free to email us or call us if there's more questions about how that type of page would work. But at a high level, again, kind of going through this, promote this type of gift to people at all levels of consideration. Promote it early, promote it often. Provide applications, tools, things that can help people easily understand their RMD, as well as easily access or understand what to do next in terms of getting that IRA custodian distribution form. Now, I just wanted to see here. I'm just checking for some questions. We're, by the way, as I mentioned, loading up some questions to be answered at the end here. So this you guys just saw, but just kind of putting it back in front of us, and also so you kind of have it in the slides as well. Just showing some screenshots of that distribution form that would come out of that kind of widget or application, as well as the checklist. And then furthermore, that Ally distribution form. So you'll kind of have these in front of you, images and examples that you can build off of in the future. With regard to those 4 emails that I'd mentioned that are worth, that we send out in conjunction with those types of efforts, and certainly should be done by any charity, whether it's through your vendor or through in-house. It's really all about just making sure that people are aware this is an option, trying to get them to lean in and think about whether they actually are looking for tax-wise giving strategies, and driving them to these pages to learn more. You don't have to do too much in these emails. It's really just about getting their attention. This is kind of the medicine, or this is the spoonful of sugar, and there's more medicine on the other end in terms of deeper information and context. But we just want to bring this to their attention, make sure they're aware of it, and mix this into marketing. Now, I'm going to pass the mic now over to you, Tracy, as we go into more of the direct mail side of things and how to market this type of giving in that manner. So I'm going to pull up our first example here and let you go with it.
All right. So, and I should say, all of my clients who are marketing QCD gifts are doing this multi-channel through email, mail packages, even social media, and so on. So, these are integrated with some of the emails that MarketSmart and other vendors send out. But this is just an example of a postcard that we put together for TGen recently. This is a self-mailer. It's not a full letter package, but it does give them all the basics of the gift. It gives them an option to request sample forms. They can let the organization know if they're going to make an IRA gift maybe later this year, or if they're thinking about it. And what's kind of nice about this, and this is something that we try to do in a lot of our packages, is it also collects some additional information. In this case, we use the opportunity available on the reply device to see what their actual relationship is with the organization. So we're always trying to collect that. We try to make it easy. In this case, this is an organization that does not yet have a website up and running on this, so there's no drive. But we're still going to try to make it easy as possible to request this information. Okay. And here's another one. This is just a basic double-sided postcard. Again, many of my clients, these gifts really should fall into your general direct mail, annual giving, mid-level giving campaigns, but a lot of times they do end up falling on the planned giving budget, and we're all trying to stretch those budgets wherever we can. So this is a pretty low-cost way to get the message out. It does drive the donor to the website to download sample forms or to get more information, and goes out multiple times a year to donors. Okay. Here's another one that we did for City of Hope. In this case, we were able to include a testimonial, as we always like to do. But again, these are not complicated packages. You can do more elaborate packages or letter or sort of information heavy packages, which may or may not have any additional benefit to a really straightforward message like this. But this is something that is pretty easy to do and to get out the door, especially if you do have a way to drive donors directly to download information. All right. Also for this client, we often include buck slips in direct mail acknowledgement letters because we love our annual giving colleagues, and they give us this opportunity. And towards the end of the year, this is the type of buck slip that might go into an acknowledgement that talks about a couple of different giving options, actually. So, yep. All right. So, yes, you need to market. You need to make it easy for donors to get information and to make these gifts. But of course, every time you want to invest in marketing something, you usually have to make the case for why you're going to do it. And documenting ROI is always something that we're thinking about. To do that, you actually have to accurately track these gifts. So I'm going to hammer on that a little bit because it is really, really important. Data hygiene is your friend. So, make sure that you're tracking these. And also, double check how you're going to attribute these gifts. Unlike, a gift that comes in when someone clicks on an email appeal or sticks a check in an envelope for your, year-end appeal, these come in a little bit separately from the campaign. And so you want to determine how you're going to match back these gifts to campaigns so you can see if folks who are getting this message are actually making these gifts. And the other point is, and this is true of everything, it takes time. Our clients have been marketing these gifts for several years now, consistently, regularly, not particularly expensively, and they're starting to see a very significant uptick in these gifts. So, the one thing I wanted to share is some information I just got from one of my clients, because we're actually looking at this right now. Their fiscal year is over, and we wanted to start looking at the impact of our marketing on the QCD gifts coming into that organization. This organization received $1.2 million in QCD income during the fiscal year 19, with an overall average gift of almost $5,000. These are significant gifts. Right? This isn't pocket change here, but this is a very solid mid-level average gift for them. Okay. What was interesting about this is that half the income was derived from donors who had gotten the marketing efforts. It was only about, I think, 35 to 40% of the people who'd made QCD gifts had gotten the marketing. However, we seeded the messaging throughout all sorts of donor communications, buck slips, ads, articles, and newsletters. And so even people who weren't getting targeted messaging were still seeing these messages on a regular basis. So we were kind of excited to see that donors who received marketing had a significantly higher average gift, not by a little, by a lot, over $2,000 more. And so that's some pretty awesome ROI for this. All right.
Okay.
So now
so
that
we're going to get
decided
into
that you're going to jump all over this.
So yeah, here's some initial first steps, because obviously we talked a little bit about examples about why this is critical, but we recognize obviously there's a process, and everybody's process is different. Some people's process is harder and easier than others in terms of getting new ideas implemented internally. And so some of this is a little bit of repeat, but as a baseline, something that we really recommend is start by just figuring out who is the person on our team who's going to take these types of inquiries. Make sure that phone number is really well known so that people can, pass a prospect over to that individual if the supporter has interest in this type of gift. And of course, make sure that that individual who's going to be designated can answer questions about QCDs, but really sit down and designate someone who's going to take on that role. Something that can be useful. I showed you an example from MarketSmart, but there's others even you can find online, but just having a one-page fact sheet checklist of sorts. If someone says, I'm interested, so that you can leave that behind, you can email it to them. and give them some simple steps to take in order to take action on this opportunity. And then we had that kind of widget that produces the IRA transfer form, for each custodian, but at the very least, you can have a generic IRA transfer letter that you can supply to your interested donors so that they can send that along to their custodian and get this process started. So those are just 3 things that are worth having at your disposal right now, just to help you better market and better facilitate these types of inquiries and interests. Of course, a big part of what Tracy was speaking to is training and talking to your gift officers, even your annual fund team in a sense, not just the major and plan giving officers, but everyone, in terms of making sure they're aware that if they're talking to a donor who's over the age of 70, especially if that donor is making lower level annual fund contributions, there's a chance they could give a lot more than they're probably even know they're willing to at this point. And that's also true, of course, of other assets, inquiring whether they have a donor advised fund or a foundation or so on and so forth, not just looking for cash, as Tracy was speaking to. As we discussed in our own strategies, whether it's online or direct mail, we recommend getting the word out anywhere from 2 to 4 times via those different channels to promote this type of gift and remind donors. And there's also easier piggybacks. Tracy mentioned for that particular client, they seeded this message into other things, whether it was putting kind of a little ad about tax-wise giving in the magazine or newsletter, or putting a buck slip into the thank you receipts, but find ways to kind of piggyback this in, as well as a very good starting point is just to make sure this is even mentioned on your website, in your materials, and people are aware that they can make this type of gift. And then finally, whether we're talking about plan giving or non-plan giving donor communications or newsletters, definitely include and try to seek out stories of people who've made this type of gift and find value in it so that other people can kind of see themselves within that story. You could even add, just like you might put a little checkoff box of sorts to your newsletter or your surveys or things like that for different types of gifts. Ask about someone's level of interest in transferring a portion of their IRA to the organization. I'm interested, maybe in the future, I'm not sure. As well as, of course, in your conversations. And then finally, something we hope you will do even after today, maybe even a first step, is just start having this conversation with Annual Fund. Talk about maybe trying to integrate this into their solicitations, because as we've been speaking to, as much as there may be a lot of plan and major giving folks in the audience today, as much as this tends to be housed within plan giving, from the donor's perspective, it's really not a major legacy gift. It's an annual fund contribution of sorts. So this should be a collaborative effort and a shared budget in an ideal world. So we've actually come to the end of our slides. We've had a lot of activity on the chat. I'm very happy I had my colleague Zach here to help answer some of those things as we were going along here. But we're going to pull out a few questions here to answer. Tracy, I may throw a few over to you. But as we go along, definitely feel free to keep asking questions right now. So one question that we had come in, and this one was from Rita, was related to, again, going back to just even our slides about how the custodian check works versus others. I'm going to back up and go to that slide just so we can pull that information up again. But she wanted to know, so a gift from a custodian is dated as of date on the check or postmark date?
Again, a little unclear. It's usually the same for the most part. They're not sitting on them, but a little unclear.
Got it.
Yeah, but the checkbook again is an issue when the donor is given a checkbook from which they can write a check on their IRA, and that's unfortunate. So, and we just haven't gotten a lot of clarity on that. So as someone said, they've spoken to their organization's general counsel to get guidance. Generally I'm going to just refer people to their own counsel on this.
Yep. Okay. No, that makes sense. So here we've got a question from Danielle. So she said, I'm new to my organization. I was invited to provide content for our year-end member newsletter. Our program is in dire need of overhaul, and our website was just updated and does not have resources to drive people. Any advice on what this year-end message could be? I'm referring specifically to plan giving content.
So I have a client who last week, they're building up a brand new program and just getting some marketing implemented. And although we had put information about QCDs in the Plan Giving newsletter earlier in the fall, we hadn't yet planned for any specific outreach. We were able to get one of these postcards and an email out within 3 days. And you can see samples of these on the slides. But if you're looking for year-end right now, get the message out now. It's a simple email. It's a simple postcard. Get an article into your newsletter. It can be very simple. Some of those, the buck slips that we showed, we modify and use as ads in newsletters as well. If you have a donor who've made these gifts, you can put in a little testimonial from them in your newsletter. But it's really, it won't take a lot of time to start getting this message out. So you really should do so. Certainly if there's nothing on your website at all about QCD gifts, make sure that anything that you put out there, whether ad or buck slip or postcard, has a phone number for a specific person, preferably with a name that they can call, because we do not want people to get stuck in an endless voicemail loop at your organization at year end.
Very good advice. Very good advice. So we've got more rolling in here. Someone asked, and I can answer this one, just can you please send us samples of the marketing postcards and donor intent letter to send to custodians? That'll all be included. We're going to send these slides out, so those examples will be included. If you're looking for something deeper or even more examples, you can also reach out to Tracy or myself or Market Smart in general, Matt Warwick, Donor Digital in general, and we can help you out even more. Somebody also asked,
as with all marketing messages, really make sure you get them the information that they need in a simple, easy to follow way. So I've seen a lot of, QCD marketing efforts or web pages that are just, blocks of wonky text. And that's, never particularly useful for our donors.
Yeah, and even going to the gentleman's question here, I mean, this is a fairly simple letter and one that could be easily recreated in-house. And so, yeah, you'll be able to see this as well, but it's pretty simple, just, including their name as well as their account number. Now, we had somebody, and I'm not sure if this, Tracy, you may be the better source of this answer. They said, do QCDs sometimes get sent via wire?
And I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. But I can look into that.
Okay.
And we'll add a footnote on the slide if we can.
Okay. Okay. And somebody asked, I'm curious your opinion on this, Tracy. They said, do you recommend calling it only a QCD or RMD? What's the best way for people to understand?
Yeah, so for years, we called these IRA rollover gifts. Increasingly, we are shifting the message to QCD, qualified charitable distribution, which makes it significantly clearer to the donors what this is. Sometimes we'll use both. Now, a required minimum distribution is the amount that the donor has to take from their IRA each year once they reach 70 and a half. They can use part or all of their required minimum distribution to make a gift to you, up to a max of $100,000 a person. However, they can actually make a gift that is more than their required minimum distribution. So if their required minimum distribution is $43,000, but they want to pull a $100,000 gift out of their account for you, they can do that. So we'll see marketing that says, use your required minimum distribution to make your gift. But, in some ways, then you're limiting that gift because they can go beyond that if their required minimum distribution is below the maximum gift amount. But again, I would say, if you're starting up some marketing, I think that the qualified charitable distribution language is clearer than IRA rollover, or you could use both if you need to shift that messaging in slowly. So, and as Harry said, it's already rollover can mean other things in terms of moving your funds from one account to another and so on. So it's much clearer that this is a charitable gift if you use QCD.
One individual had asked him, are we allowed to use any of your print materials or our own stuff, newly created materials? Everything you've seen today is off. No, I'm kidding. Yes, absolutely. Everything you've seen today, you're welcome to use on your own. This is all supposed to be informational and for you. So feel free. Everything you're seeing, it's at your disposal to recreate in-house or however you'd like. Now, one person had asked here, they said, you mentioned gift processors are not always processing and receiving these types of gifts. How can you tell when you get a check what type of gift it is, especially when sometimes there's not even a donor name on it, which does happen, of course. So yeah, what would you recommend in that type of instance?
I mean, most of the time, if you look at the check and the documentation that comes with it, it says that it's a charitable distribution. It has the donor's name on it, and so on. So, you know, it's just look. A lot of times I'll have had people say, well, you know, I couldn't tell what this gift was or who it was from. And when you look a little more closely, it's actually there, maybe in small print, but it's there. And if you're not sure, then, you know, you can call the administrator and ask, is this, you know, a QCD gift? We see the same issue with gifts from donor advised funds, but, you know, not only make sure that you're understanding that it's a QCD gift, but you're actually marking it as a QCD gift in your database. However you do that in your CRM. But, you know, sometimes it's just a little bit of experience and taking a little bit of a deeper look, which is hard when you need to process a lot of gifts, especially at year end, but, you know, got to be done.
Mm-hmm. Here's another one for you. Can a QCD be used to fulfill a pledge as opposed to a donor advised fund, which technically cannot?
Yes. Yep.
One person
it can be used to
asked,
fund a life income gift. So.
Got it.
Yes, it
Got
can.
it. Someone also just asked here, what are the other ways to give from IRAs, individual retirement accounts? Of course, someone could sign or you know, name your organization as a beneficiary of that fund in the end. Although we are, of course, speaking a lot more today.
And certainly, you know, the reality is your QCD donors are, you should also be asking them to name your organization the beneficiary of their account. That's really kind of a no-brainer, you know, to say you can make a gift two ways, immediately with a QCD and after your lifetime with a beneficiary designation. A QCD cannot fund a gift annuity. We just saw that question pop up. So really it's QCD or beneficiary designation. I mean, people will pull money, take withdrawals, pay taxes on their withdrawal, and then use the proceeds for other things, but that's obviously not optimal for most people, and you definitely don't want to get into those kinds of challenging situations with your donors. So
I'm looking back here, seeing if we got any new questions coming in, but those were a lot of great ones. Thank you, everyone, for asking away here, and continue to feel free. We've got an expert here with Tracy who can answer really any of the technical questions that you may have. And so, but I'm looking back, I think we may have covered really a lot of the questions that came in here, if not all of them. Was there anything else, Tracy, you were thinking that would be of value to just share on this topic?
Just reiterating, don't wait. You know, get the message out there, get it out in multiple channels at many points in the year, and, you know, talk to your donors about it. This isn't super complicated. Like, don't be intimidated by this. You know, it's a relatively straightforward gift, you know, and knowing some of the details will make you feel a little more confident, but definitely get it out. You know, one article or one buck slip or one postcard, that's a start. But really you want to start getting this message out, you know, all year round, for sure. Hi,
one
Alex.
last question.
We'll put, I will on the, on a slide, we'll include, I'll include the language that I usually put on acknowledgement letters. So
So I think that may wrap us up for today. Although, let's see, we may have had one more question come here. Will the Patriots win the Super Bowl again this year? I don't know. I can't comment on that. But no, what I would say is just thank you, everyone. Number one, for bearing with us through some of those technical difficulties at first. We're really appreciative to have you all on here. If there are other questions you wanted to ask out here, you wanted to ask in private, please feel free to reach out to Tracy and or myself. As you can see, our emails are there, but we'll also provide that when we reach out with the slides as well. All right. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Oops, I have turned it off here.